Good morning and welcome to the New York City preliminary budget hearing on the Committee on Small Business. Please silence all electronic devices. At no time, please do not approach the dais. If you have any question, please raise your hand and the Sergeant at Arms will kindly assist you. Thank you very much for your kind cooperation. Chair, we're ready to begin.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's budget hearing. I am Councilmember Oswald Feliz, and I am the chair of the Council's Committee on Small Business. Today, we'll be hearing from the Department of Small Business Services on their fiscal 2025 preliminary budget. Commissioner Kim, it is great to see you. Great meeting you a few weeks ago in my district office. Thank you for coming all the way to the Bronx and Fordham Road. Very productive meeting and conversation, and we look forward to continuing those discussions that we had. Small businesses are the backbone of our economy, and small businesses in New York City in particular are what give our neighborhoods their unique flavor and feel. The contributions of our small businesses are endless. They create local jobs, they keep neighborhoods vibrant, and they generate so much economic activity. As the council member of District 15, I know this very well. My district covers Fordham Road, the busiest commercial corridor in the entire Bronx. Also Arthur Avenue, another vibrant commercial corridor. It is crucial that New York City continue to support our small businesses, not only as they continue to recover from the long-lasting effects of the coronavirus pandemic, but also and particularly in this era of consolidation and monopolism of large multinational corporations. I'm excited to hear from the agency on how this preliminary plan is responding to the needs of our small businesses, our small business community, and also how resources will be utilized. For a little context, the fiscal 2025 preliminary budget for SBS totals $173.9 million, with $34.4 million, or nearly 20%, proposed for personal services to support 302 current full-time employees. Of the total budget for the agency, $103.8 million, or nearly 60%, supports the department's operations. The remaining $70.1 million of SBS's budget is pass-through funding for the New York City Economic Development Corporation and NYC & Company. The department's fiscal 2025 preliminary budget is $109.6 million, or 38.7% less than the fiscal 2024 adopted budget of $283.5 million. The agency, while improving, continues to have double-digit vacancy rates. It'll be important for the committee to understand what steps the agency is taking to reduce these vacancies so that it can appropriately carry out the important mission of supporting our small businesses. It is the council's responsibility to ensure that the city's budget is fair, transparent, and accountable to all New Yorkers. This includes equity in funding and equity in assistance. As the new chair of the Committee on Small Business, I will push for accountability and accuracy and ensure that the budget reflects the wants, the needs, and the interests of the city. This hearing is a vital part of this process, and I expect that SBS will be responsive to the questions and concerns of council members. I look forward to an active engagement with the administration over the next few months to ensure that the fiscal 2025 adopted budget meets the goal that this council has set out. I would like to thank Commissioner Kim. Thank you for joining and for testifying today. I also want to thank the staff of the Small Business Department who have been very responsive to our many requests. We would not be able to analyze the city's budget so thoroughly and at such detailed level without your cooperation, so thank you. I would also like to thank my staff and the staff of the Finance and the Legislative Divisions for their help in preparing for this hearing. I also want to thank committee counsels Rebecca Barilla and Jessica Boulay for helping organize today's hearing. Thank you. I would also like to recognize Council Members Zhuang and Ung who have joined us today. Thank you, and I'll pass it back to our committee counsel, Jessica Boulay, so that she can administer the oath.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. I'm Jessica Boulay, Committee Counsel for the Committee on Small Business. Before we begin testimony, I want to remind everyone on Zoom that you will be on mute until you are called on to testify. I will be calling on public witnesses to testify after the conclusion of the administration's testimony and after council member questions. So please listen carefully at that point for your name to be called. Council members, you will be called on for questions after the full panel has completed their testimony. We will now call representatives of the administration to testify. We will hear testimony from the Department of Small Business Services, and I will administer the affirmation to our panelists. Today, I believe we have Kevin Kim, Commissioner for the Department of Small Business Services, Dana Shaw Gross, and Michael Forte. Thank you all for being with us today. Please raise your right hands. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before this committee, and to respond honestly to council member questions? I do. Great, thank you very much. So I'll start by inviting Commissioner Kim to testify.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Chair Feliz and members of the Committee on Small Business. My name is Kevin D. Kim, and I serve as the Commissioner of the New York City Department of Small Business Services, or SBS. Joining me today are SBS's Executive Deputy Commissioner for Programs, Dina Shaw Gross to my right, and Executive Deputy Commissioner for Administration, Michael Forte to my left. We are pleased to offer our testimony on SBS's fiscal year 2025 budget. New York City has experienced a remarkable resurgence. Mayor Adams' prudent fiscal management coming out of the pandemic has led to record-breaking job levels and improved bond ratings. These indicators showcase the success of the Mayor and Deputy Mayor Maria Torres Springer's vision outlined in the blueprint for New York City's economic recovery, through which small businesses play a central role in shaping the city of yes. Today, I am proud to highlight SBS's significant contributions to the recovery through pioneering initiatives such as the NYC Small Business Opportunity Fund and the creation of the first ever AI chatbot designed to assist small businesses. I also want to recognize the vital partnership between City Council members and SBS. Many of our achievements stem directly from our work together. In coordination with your offices, I have personally visited small businesses in all 51 City Council districts with virtually every City Council member. Thank you for your warm hospitality during these visits and your collaboration throughout the year. SBS's fiscal year 25 preliminary budget stands at $173.9 million, of which $34.3 million, or 19%, is allocated to personal services. Of the total budget of $173.9 million, approximately $70.1 million, or 40%, represents pass-through funding for other city entities, including the NYC Economic Development Corporation at $36.7 million, NYC Tourism and Conventions at $17.4 million, and the Trust for Governor's Island at $16 million. As a conduit to these entities, SBS does not manage or spend any of these funds. The budget allocates $103.8 million to SBS programs, personnel, and services, but excludes the extensive discretionary contract portfolio typically added by Council at the adopted budget in June. Currently, SBS's budgeted headcount stands at 346, with 167 filled since the start of the Adams administration. Our dedicated team at SBS carefully manages these resources to deliver programs that connect New Yorkers to good jobs, create stronger businesses, and build vibrant neighborhoods. This work is conducted through SBS's 4 major program divisions: the Division of Business Services, or DBS, the Division of Economic and Financial Opportunity, or DFO, the Workforce Development Division, or WDD, and the Neighborhood Development Division, NDD. Additionally, we oversee specialized experts and teams, including Cannabis NYC, New York City Office of Nightlife, New York City Food and Beverage Industry Partnership, Waterfront Permits, Women's Entrepreneurs NYC, or We NYC, and Black Entrepreneurs NYC, or BNYC. Our DBS division, the Business Services Division, offers an array of free business services, connecting entrepreneurs with financing opportunities, business courses, mentorship, legal assistance, and more. Notably, we launched last year the New York City Small Business Opportunity Fund in partnership with Goldman Sachs and MasterCard Center for Inclusive Growth. This initiative, the largest public-private effort in city history to support small businesses, has facilitated over $85 million in low-interest loans to more than 1,000 small businesses through collaboration with 8 Community Development Financial Institutions, or CDFIs. Recognizing the systemic challenges faced by businesses owned by people of color and immigrants in accessing financing, we intentionally designed the Opportunity Fund to mitigate these barriers by eliminating traditional obstacles such as application fees and minimum credit score requirements. We also employ targeted outreach strategies in language in communities throughout the 5 boroughs. We reached over 500 businesses in historically underserved neighborhoods with door-to-door outreach, including more than 120 Bronx-based businesses on launch day. As a result, approximately 80% of the fund's loans were awarded to minority or women-owned businesses, with 69% going to businesses owned by self-identified BIPOC New Yorkers. That 69% represents more than double the rate at which BIPOC businesses access capital through the Federal Small Business Administration. Moreover, 59% of the awards went to businesses in low to moderate income neighborhoods. Finally, another data point that demonstrates the success of our outreach effort is that while the Bronx businesses represent 8% of all small businesses in New York City, Bronx businesses received 14% of Opportunity Fund loans, and businesses in every city council district received funds as well. This underscores SBS's unwavering commitment to overcoming historical inequities and fostering inclusive economic growth. One notable beneficiary of the Opportunity Fund is the husband and wife team behind Booney Coffee, Sariana and Elias Prabasi, who received over $100,000 to expand their Washington Heights and Inwood-based business operations. They will use these funds to open a coffee rotisserie in the Bronx, expanding from serving coffee at their 4 cafes to supplying now coffee beans throughout New York City and giving more businesses the opportunity to cut costs and roast their own brew. Their story exemplifies the transformative impact of strategic financing on local economies and the powerful role small businesses have, not just to create wealth, but provide something special for our neighbors. SBS's DFO division facilitates opportunities for minority and women business enterprises, or MWBEs, by providing certification, technical assistance, and capacity building training. We collaborate with city agencies to connect MWBEs with contracting opportunities, supporting their participation in the city's procurement processes. Our year-round efforts culminated at the 15th annual citywide procurement fair at Barclays Center, where the administration announced a record $6 billion awarded to MWBE firms in fiscal year 23. Nearly 3/4 of all MWBE's awarded city contracts utilized SBS services, reflecting our commitment to facilitating their success. One such success story is that of Ibrahima Badji, a first-generation Senegalese-American entrepreneur whose company Good Vibes supports high school students in pursuing debt-free higher education. Through SBS's direct assistance, Mr. Badji secured 5 government contracts totaling $50,000, enabling him to expand his impactful initiatives and contribute to his community's well-being and our city's greatest mission, serving our children. In alignment with Mayor Adams' vision and legislative efforts led by Chief Business Diversity Officer Michael Gardner, the administration increased the dollar value of MWBE non-competitive contracts initially from $500,000 to $1 million, and then again this year from 1 million to 1.5 million. Using this method in fiscal year 23, the city unleashed a record-setting $175 million in contracts awarded to MWBEs, a 60% increase over the prior year. Moreover, at SBS, we expanded the Contract Financing Loan Fund program to provide an additional $50 million in low-interest funding, which will support 350 vendors to fulfill $600 million in city contracts over the next 2 fiscal years. New York City's greatest asset is our talent. SBS's WDD division plays a pivotal role in connecting job seekers with employment opportunities and assisting businesses in fulfilling their workforce needs. Through our network of 18 SBS Workforce One career centers across the 5 boroughs, we provide free job placement services, career coaching, and training programs. In fiscal year 23, we helped 23,599 New Yorkers get a job or advance their career. SBS's efforts contributed to the recovery of nearly 1 million jobs lost during the pandemic, exemplifying the resilience of New York City's workforce and the dedication of our incredible SBS team. One success story I'd like to share is that of military veteran Rudy Cazares, who partnered with SBS to expand his logistics company in the Bronx, hiring 49 local residents through Workforce One. Our collaborative efforts with community partners have further enhanced our ability to connect job seekers with diverse employment opportunities, again fostering inclusive economic growth. Our Neighborhood Development Division, NDD, oversees our neighborhood development initiatives and supports New York City's network of 75 business improvement districts, or BIDs, which serve nearly 300 miles of commercial corridors and invest more than $187 million into local economies. In the Adams administration, we have allocated approximately $27 million in grants to over 100 community-based organizations, spurring commercial corridor revitalization efforts. Examples of the impact of these grants include the installation of seasonal Ramadan lighting by Brooklyn's Bay Ridge Fifth Avenue BID, neighborhood beautification efforts by Morris Park BID in the Bronx, and enhanced district marketing by East Brooklyn BID. Brooklyn's Bay Ridge Fifth Avenue BID, for example, used their BID grants to install seasonal Ramadan lighting along 20 blocks and over 400 storefront businesses, while Morris Park BID in the Bronx doubled down on neighborhood beautification by planting 47 guarded tree pits, cleaning up over 100 tree pits, and installing 10 planters along their commercial corridor. East Brooklyn BID leveraged their funding to boost business-to-business marketing and reached over 7,000 people on Facebook. These initiatives not only enhance the aesthetic appeal of commercial districts, but also stimulate economic activity and create safer neighborhoods. Our partnership with the City Council has been instrumental in advancing initiatives to support small businesses and reduce regulatory burdens. This year, the Council passed Intro 845-2023, a critical component of the Mayor's Small Business Forward initiative to cut red tape. With this legislation signed by the Mayor, the administration has implemented over 90 reforms to lower fines, create cure periods, or institute first-time warnings, putting dollars back into the hands of business owners to reinvest in their businesses and communities. Building on the City Council's one-stop-shop portal enacted into law in October 2022, we launched the SBS business site on the My City portal with a first-in-the-nation AI chatbot to help business owners navigate city government. The new AI chatbot serves as a 24-hour executive assistant, saving business owners and entrepreneurs time and money by instantly sharing actionable and trusted information from more than 2,000 New York City business web pages and articles. And it's in the top 10 languages spoken in New York City. Additionally, this committee helped to bring the Office of Nightlife to SBS from the Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment through legislation. The O&L team is right at home at SBS, working across our divisions to support the $35 billion industry. As we work together to modernize government services and support local communities, I am proud to also have great relationships with the community boards, BIDS, chambers of commerce, merchants associations, community-based development organizations, immigrant-focused advocacy groups, consular corps, and nonprofits in each of your districts. The City Council provides a bridge for our agency to so many local organizations, and I am eager to continue this partnership. In conclusion, SBS remains steadfast in its commitment to Mayor Adams' economic agenda centered on equity and inclusivity, with small businesses continuing to lead our recovery efforts. We look forward to working with the Council to advance our shared goals. Thank you for the opportunity to testify, and we welcome any questions you have for me or my team. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner, for the testimony and for all the information. So we have many questions about the overall budget, questions about state funding, federal funding, PEGs, and more. But I'll start with the very basic questions regarding the overall budget, just to give context for future questions. So what is the total FY 2024 budget, SBS budget, and how does the new proposed budget, the FY 2025 budget, compare to the 2024?
So as I mentioned in my testimony, the budget stands at $173.9 million. 40% are pass-throughs that we don't manage or spend. That's $70.3 million. And then 60% remains for SBS, which also includes the Office of Talent that's in our budget. And of that, 34.3 million is personal services. The 109 million drop that you might see in the overall budget comes from primarily the pass-throughs. So there's 45 million of that. And also the council discretionary that gets added in usually at the adopted budget, approximately $30 million. So out of the 109 million drop you may see on the paper, about 75 million of it is either through pass-throughs or the council discretionary. And then the remaining are either investments, one-time investments that we made coming out of the worst pandemic ever, that we needed to make the investments into businesses, into commercial corridors. And so that accounts for the remaining difference that you'll see on paper from this year and next year.
And what are the sources of this funding? City funds, obviously, state, what else?
Our budget includes CTL, city tax levy funding. We have some state support, obviously, and then we have WIOA federal funding for workforce programs.
Okay, and a few questions about headcount and hiring.
Yes.
So the fiscal 2025 preliminary plan includes a budgeted headcount of 2 new positions since the fiscal 2024 adopted plan, bringing the total adopted headcount to 346 in fiscal 2025. So what's going to be the role of these 2 new positions and staffers?
So at SBS, because we also help pass through our budget through a number of the other agencies, including Office of Faith and some positions through the Mayor's Office of People with Disabilities and whatnot, the exact number of the headcount, if you look at it from SBS's fiscal year 25, the planned headcount of 346, to put it into context, when the administration first came into office, we had 304 people at SBS. So we've had actually an increase of 42 headcount. And since the start of the administration, therefore, we've also hired over 167 people when you include people who might have left in between. But at the end of the day, I think you had mentioned at one point that SBS, in your opening, that SBS's vacancy rate was double digits. That's a little misleading because SBS is only about 3.6%, well below the city average of about 5.5%. We have only 10, what that means is we only have at SBS alone 10 positions that are available. So again, 3.6%. The other numbers that you see are related to all the other entities that come through us on the budget side, but they control the hiring and their PS budget side. So we're actually doing remarkably well. I think one of the big factors was when Mayor Adams and DCAS Commissioner Don Pinnock put on the hiring halls, and we did a hiring sprint. Our agency, on paper, went from one of the highest at 30% all the way down to, at this point, maybe it's 10, 11% on the budget side, but SBS alone is only 3.6%.
3.6%.
Is that right? 3.6?
Okay. And do you believe that the headcount included in the preliminary plan is sufficient to meet the needs of the agency in fiscal year 2025?
Yes, absolutely. We did so much in the past 2 years, and in particular, the first year I was here with a lot fewer people. But I think this past year, we went and took advantage of the hiring sprints and all the great hiring halls that DCAS Commissioner Don Pinnock organized, and we were able to put in an incredible team. And I think you're seeing the results of all the accomplishments we did last year in terms of historic investments and programs and initiatives. And so we are well poised to go into fiscal year 25 to do some more record-breaking activities.
Okay. Few questions related to the program to eliminate the gap, PEGs. So the preliminary plan includes $5.3 million in PEGs for fiscal 2025. The department took approximately $2.5 million in savings from various business programs. What programs were reduced from the business program savings?
So for the PEGs themselves, we expect very minimal, if no, impact to all of our programming, and I think it really shows in the work that we did this past year. In terms of the actual programming, the bulk of it comes from workforce development side of the areas, but we're lucky because, as I explained originally, we also have the WIOA funds from the federal dollars. So wherever possible, we're able to swap out CTL money for the federal funds, WIOA funds. And so I think almost 4 million or over 4 million of that, what you speak of, comes from the workforce end, where we're able to, wherever possible, swap out into the federal dollars. And in terms of some of the other programs, Cannabis NYC, for example, we cut almost $400,000, but we did that only because of the fact that the state encountered a lot of lawsuits, and so there was a delay in the rollout of the licensing for legal licensing. And so because of that, there was less money anticipated to help new applicants, so we took it from actual savings. But other than that, there are a couple of other programs where we were able to bring in, for example, marketing in-house, where one of our contract partners might have been looking to use some money to do outreach and marketing. But because at SBS, in the first year I was here, we were able to reorganize our agency to create a separate outreach team. We knew that we could handle the marketing in-house, so we found cost efficiencies there as well.
Thank you. Thank you for the information. I would like to recognize Councilmember Palladino, who has joined us, also Councilmember Botcher, and Krishnan. A few questions related to PEGs, PEGs related to MWBEs. So the preliminary plan includes a PEG for almost $1 million related to savings in the MWBE program in fiscal 2024. What programs within SBS's MWBE division are these savings derived from?
Yeah, there'll almost be zero impact on our There will be zero impact on our MWB program, because that $1 million reflects the original budget of $1.5 million this year that was put in to have the disparity study done. So every 2 years, is it, by law, we're supposed to have a disparity study, and so that money was designed for that. But my team, we were able to partner up with CUNY and get this study done. And so we wouldn't need this money going into next year.
So is it safe to say that these programs will not be affected not one bit due to the PEGs?
I believe so. We have and will continue to have such a robust support system for MWBEs. We've got MWB mentoring. We've got our Oath contract mediation partnership. We've got MWBE free contract legal services. We've got our construction ramp up program, the bond readiness program. And as I mentioned in my testimony, we actually have a much larger pool of money available for the contract financing loan fund. That fund oftentimes is what has helped a lot of smaller MWBEs who worried about capacity to perform on city contracts, people who would be shy to even apply for the contract. Once they knew that this program would allow up to $1 million at a 3% fixed rate guaranteed by the city contract, we found many more MWBEs entering into this process and getting awards. And so that program, because of the increased amount of money, has now been able to support, as I said, an additional 350 vendors, up to $600 million of city contracting.
Okay, thank you for that information. So a few more questions, and then I'll pass it on to colleagues who have questions. Few questions related to our bids, our business improvement districts. We know our small businesses work hard to generate economic activity, keep neighborhoods vibrant, and our local business improvement districts help our businesses support our community by making sure that our commercial corridors are corridors that people want to come to shop, to eat, and to support our small businesses. So a few questions about funding related for our bids. How much of the department's preliminary budget is dedicated to supporting our business improvement districts?
So we were, as you know, the Neighborhood Development Division, NDD Division, does a tremendous job working with the 75 bids throughout the city. Over the past 2 years since the administration began, we had allocated over $27 million to over 100 organizations, and that includes a lot of the smallest of the bids. We knew that coming out of the pandemic, how effective bids were and what an important role they played in helping the commercial corridors survive and even some of them thrive through the pandemic. So the one-time investments that the Blueprint for Economic Recovery laid out was an important piece in getting them through the most challenging times. And so that one-time investment, you're seeing many of the payoffs now in the programmings that they're doing. One of the things we did last year as a pilot program was the lighting grant at $1.5 million. And if you go up to Harlem on 125th Street, I was up there with Barbara Askins, the bid director, and there's a singing tree there that has lights coordinated with the song. And she was telling me how people have started to come in front of it just to take photos, and there's been not quite full-blown viral videos, but mini videos, and how people are starting to come out there and do proposals and having fun, and it's drawing people into the district. So we know all the creative things and all the important public safety and sanitation services that bids provide. So we continue to support them. We have our Avenue NYC and Neighborhood 360 program that will be there next year as well. The Neighborhood 360 has $2.5 million. The Avenue NYC has $1.5 million. And so we look forward to our continued partnership with our bids that way.
Yep, and by the way, it was great joining you in Harlem to see that tree lighting program in action.
Yes.
Very nice. Do you believe that the budget includes sufficient resources to support bid formation and also our smaller bids? And if yes, what type of resources are included for these smaller bids?
So that's where I do want to emphasize the Neighborhood 360 and Avenue NYC program that's been ongoing. One of the examples is Cypress Hill, for example. Up there, they're looking to create their own bid, and we were able to use their Avenue NYC grant to get them help to be able to do a CDNA, a commercial district needs assessment. So once they created that report with the money we were able to grant them, then they're now in the bid formation process, and with our Neighborhood 360 grants, they're able to try to further along and get that across the finish line. But those are the exact types of programs that we continue to provide at NDD, along with all the capacity building, and as you, as city council members, and as SBS and other electeds, we sit on the Class D of all these bids. We're there on site, on the ground, working with them to make sure that they can support the businesses that they were intended to do.
Thank you. Thank you. I have many more questions about bids and other topics, but I'll take a break now. I'll pass it on to Councilmember Zhuang, who has a few questions.
Thank you, Commissioner. I also want to thank you come to my district. And
Thank you.
It's a great tour in my district. You have been seeing in 8th Avenue, it's a lot of new immigrants there. and you have been talking about bids. I want to ask, do you think you have enough funding for the bid and also merchant association? And then if you do, can you bring more resources to my district? And currently, in my district, we don't have any bid or merchant association.
Yes. So our NDD team that you've met, I think, we will work with you very closely because our belief is that the more bids, the better in the city. And so, and merchant associations as well, they're very important in providing work that in areas where it might be very difficult and challenging to actually form a bid. So we'll be there with you to coordinate and discuss and how to support.
And I also want to know, do you have enough funding for that?
Yes, our team has the support through the Neighborhood 360 and Avenue NYC of dollars that I had mentioned, the 2.5 and 1.5 million respectively. Bid formation takes a long time. I think the key critical factor that a lot of people underestimate is you need to get the landlords, the 51% of the landlords in the district to sign on. And so what we try to do with all of our partnership with the community-based organizations and the community boards and everybody else, and the electeds with your partnership, if we're all on board that a bid can be formed there, then we'll work together to contact the landlords and to show them why and how valuable it is to actually have a bid in their district. And it's at the end of the day, when you talk landlord language, I think it's about increasing their property value. And if you show that you can create a safer commercial corridor, a commercial corridor that attracts more people and that their businesses can thrive, then their property values go up. I think you can persuade a lot of people to do that.
Like currently in my district, do you have any partner already you can help us moving forward?
I will have our NDD team contact you right after this meeting to specifically talk about your district. But again, we can provide, and this is where we add a lot of value where it doesn't cost additional dollars, is we have the technical assistance and the experience of bid formation in-house, and they can work with you. So they'll come and talk to you right after this.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember. I'll pass it on to Councilmember Bottcher, but briefly before that, I just wanted to ask some additional questions related to bid formation and our general questions about bids. How many bids have we created in the last 2-3 years, let's say? And also, how many would you say are in the pipeline? More or less, if you don't have the specific number.
While I buy time on that exact number, I do want to go back to Councilmember Zhuang. So we are funding the Brooklyn Chinese American Association and the Asian Americans for Equality, and they both conducted a CDNA there. So, but we can talk more further on that. And then to the exact numbers, how many? I know we have 2 that are getting close. Cypress Hill, as I mentioned earlier, and then Long Island City is expanding. So while it's not a new bid, they're significantly expanding their footprint. So you can kind of consider it in that way. We've had in Jamaica 3 bids come together and form one. And I think from most people, yes, like as Councilmember Palladino just mentioned, it was a very efficient use and smart move on, on the part of the organizations to be cost efficient and to be more impactful. And so we believe that at times it does make sense for bids to contract and not contract, but get together and form one joint bid like they did in Jamaica. But other times it makes sense for bids just to expand their footprint instead of creating a brand new bid. So that's the case of Long Island City. And then in Cypress Hill, they're working on and very close to forming their own bid. And West Village as well has, West Village and Castle Hill have been formed during the administration. So those are 2 new bids that have come online since the administration began.
Okay, so more or less 2 bids in the last 2-ish years.
Yes.
Okay. And, as someone who represents a very diverse district, we have Fordham Road and Arthur Avenue, well-established bids, but also East Tremont, which has been trying to form a bid for a long time. Very aware of the many challenges that our bids face when trying to form including and especially communities that don't have a lot of resources, communities that have high vacancy rates, very aware of the challenges they face. But if we've only formed 2 bids in 2 years, I think, all of us need to give that issue some additional attention.
And I do want to update you. There's 9 total bids in the pipeline as well. So
9 total bids in the pipeline.
Yes.
And how long have they been in the pipeline for, more or less?
I think each one's different. I think there's so much we can do as a city and as an agency to get a bid formed. Like I said, I think the biggest challenge is getting the landlords to get right. You could do everything right, but if the 51% of the landlords don't sign on, you can't get a bid formed. That's the way the law is working. So I think this is where we continue to try to partner up, and we have been partnering up with the local elected officials there, the community boards, the community-based organizations to really try to push this. But I think, there are some bid formations that have been there for many years because the landlords just refuse to sign on.
Okay. All right, so now let's hear from Councilmember Botcher from Manhattan.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Commissioner. How are you?
Good, thank you.
In August of 2022, Cannabis NYC was launched, which is housed under your agency, an initiative to support entrepreneurs and employees as the industry develops and to make New York City a global leader in that industry. What is the total funding for that unit, Cannabis NYC, within SBS? What's the head count, and is that unit being affected by any spending reductions?
So the total budget, I'll get you in a second. The head count is 5 at the agency. But Cannabis NYC, the reason why it made sense to put it at SBS is because we obviously don't do the licensing. That's a state function. And from the city's function, we are focused on education and outreach. And so we have done tremendous amount of liftoff tours. These are kickoffs where our founding director, Dashida Dawson, who, by the way, brings expertise on a level that's rare in the country. She had run Portland's program before coming here. And her idea to do the liftoff campaigns going into communities most impacted by the war on drugs previously. We had reached over 5,000 New Yorkers, explaining to them the opportunity, the economic opportunity here. But at the same time, we partnered up with ACS, Administration Children's Services, to make sure that lockboxes were handed out to families so that when there is more cannabis potentially in the house, you have lockboxes here to protect the children. So we are focused on the education and outreach efforts. At the same time, we are also advising the sheriff's office, and the sheriff has a joint compliance task force team that is focused on making sure that enforcement happens to the extent that it can at the city level right now. There are some limitations from the state law side of things, but we have about a $3.6 million OTPS budget for fiscal year 25. And we also were able to use some of the money to create a fast track. We have fast track programs for all different business programs, but we made one specially for the cannabis industry where anybody who wants to enter the industry can now go sign up for a cohort to get educated for free on everything related to cannabis and the business of cannabis. And we've had over 300 people sign up just in the past year.
So the FY25 budget is $3.6 million, and your head count is going to stay steady in that unit?
Yes, so currently we have 5. We have 4 staff members plus an urban fellow, and we expect to keep an urban fellow in this role.
How would you say it's going writ large with respect to making New York City a global leader in the cannabis industry?
The cannabis industry, we know, is a tremendous economic opportunity for a lot of New Yorkers. At the same time, I think we know that for the legal businesses to survive, to thrive, that the unlicensed shops need to really be handled and to be dealt with in the proper ways. And so we know that the cannabis industry is something that all eyes in the world are on us because we will become the global leader. And with Dashida Dawson's expertise, we've been navigating through some of the challenges that some of these lawsuits that were filed on the state level have created. But we've helped over 1,000 people understand how to apply, what the opportunities will be, and just understand the nature of the various licenses. Because it's not just a retail license like you might have. They have 9 different licenses, and people don't realize that you don't always have to even touch the plant to be in the business. You can be part of the delivery business or the security business, right? So businesses that don't require to either grow or sell directly these plants. So these are the education outreach efforts that we've been working on.
And so it's fair to say that the promise that this industry has, the promise, fulfilling the promise of addressing the harms that cannabis prohibition had, that's being really held back by the unlicensed shops and the unlicensed industry.
I think it's difficult for me here sitting as SBS commissioner. I might have my own personal thoughts, but as SBS commissioner, I would say that we've been working very closely with the Office of Cannabis Management to really try to support our legal businesses. Not only is the license important, but they also have to understand they're actually running a business. And so from that end, we've been able to provide them with so many of our free resources, compliance advisory, and all the things that we do. And so in that, towards that end, as more and more licensed cannabis businesses come online, we've been already in touch with many of them, helping them get to that point. But even once they're there, we'll continue to support them with all of our free business services.
I'm very happy to hear that the funding is sufficient, that the headcount is constant, because to me, this unit and your efforts are so important to ensuring that we do fulfill the promise that is there by cannabis legalization, and that we do ensure that legalization of cannabis benefits the communities that were so disproportionately harmed for so many years. So thank you for your efforts.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Bottcher, for raising a very important topic that, we need to have a lot of conversations about. I'll pass it on to our Majority Whip, Sylvina Brooks Powers, but briefly just wanted to throw out an idea before we fully move on from the issue related to bids. Very aware of the challenges that our communities face when trying to form a bid, including the challenges that you mentioned, getting in touch with the landlord, but also having someone, not only landlord, but landlords, right? You have a lot of landlords
Right.
that you need to get to the table. It'll be really interesting, and this is an idea that I haven't fully thought through, but just an idea. It'll be interesting if we can create temporary, part-time SBS positions and specifically give them the role of helping organize that specific community. And temporary only because the hope is that in the future, the idea would be turned into a reality. You'll perform a bid, and eventually it'll be permanent. That'll be very interesting. Again, considering that some communities don't have resources, some of them have other challenges, language barrier, and etc. So it'll be interesting if we could create part-time positions specifically in certain regions to help complete all the processes that are needed to form a bid. Yep. So now let's hear from our...
The only thing I would say to that is that also is part of why the Avenue NYC and Neighborhood 360 grants are important, because when we do give the money, we do expect sometimes, in many cases, it depends on the proposal, but in many cases, they will use part of that money to hire someone to help organize the community. And we feel that if you're from the community, that it might be more effective than if somebody over at One Liberty Plaza was trying to do it. So, but, we'll definitely explore that option with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Now, Majority Whip, Sylvina Brooks Powers.
Thank you, Chair, and hello, Commissioner
see you.
and Deputy Commissioners. It's always good to see you, and as always, I thank you for the work that you do, in particular in my district, and the responsiveness that I get from you. Just a couple of questions. First, in the PMR, in the SBS section, the report lists as a goal, quote unquote, increase the number of MWBEs that obtain city contracts. Can you get more specific about what that goal looks like in fiscal year 25? What metrics is SBS using to measure this goal? And how does SBS intend to accomplish this goal?
So I'll turn it over to Executive Deputy Commissioner Danish Algros, who has worked in the MWB space for many, many years. And so, please.
Commissioner, and thank you, Council Member, for the question. Turning on the mic. Thank you, and good afternoon to everyone. So we do report on we report on a quarterly basis on all of our work in the MWBE program and the number of firms winning contracts and the dollar value of those contracts and the percentage of procurement in particular industry classifications that represents. But the unique number of MWBE winners, I think, is a very important metric. We know that firms enter this program with the hope of growing their businesses through government procurement. And we have nearly 11,000 certified firms in the program right now. So we want to be sure that as many MWBEs as possible have an opportunity to present themselves as strong partners for the city for the contracting needs that are covered by the program's goals and other programs. So that unique number of MWBE winners is a metric that helps us focus on the effectiveness of the program for the broad number of MWBEs in the program. And we want to see MWBEs competing effectively and more MWBEs having a chance at the opportunities that the program creates. Last year, we had, I think, 1,900 unique winners that we tracked in the program, and so we want to increase that number year over year.
Thank you. And SBS says that construction mentorship for MWBE is a new need in this year's budget, and that the goal of the program is to centralize the current MWBE construction mentorship programs that are offered at various city agencies. Can you talk about why you feel the program needs to be consolidated and why you believe it will be more effective when housed within SBS? So will this eliminate MWBE construction mentorship programs at other agencies? If so, which agencies will no longer have these programs?
I believe you're referring to the money that is budgeted for use of the Mayor's Office of MWBE to launch the citywide construction mentorship program. Our ability to launch this program is one of the legislative victories that we have won authorization for in Albany during this administration. Currently, the city has operated only a single formal construction mentorship program that is like a project-based construction mentoring program with contracts of certain dollar values available to MWBEs that are benefiting from the education, technical assistance. And that program was launched by the Department of Design and Construction, I believe 2 fiscal years ago. So this is an expansion of that set of work to other agencies in the city that are delivering construction projects. The program is being developed and will be led through our Office of MWBE, led by Michael Garner. But OMWBE's budget is one of the items in the 801 budget code. So funding for the program does appear in SBS's budget, but the work to develop and manage that program will be led by OMWBE.
Thank you.
And I'll just add, this is a program that Chief Business Diversity Officer Michael Garner really emphasized because he saw the impact on the MTA and SCA level, School Construction Authority, when he was there. And we believe that this kind of organizing and centralizing this program and expanding it to all the agencies will really increase the number of MWBEs and the dollar amounts awarded to MWBEs.
No, and thank you for that. And one last question, Chair, if I can. One PEG identified in the preliminary plan is for the MWBE program savings. Can you talk about what these savings are? Is it possible that this PEG could negatively impact the services and support SBS provides to MWBEs?
I had just briefly answered it previously because the $1.5 million that was allocated was for the disparity study that's required. And this year, we were able to contract, and we're just going through the final steps. So that partnership we found with CUNY actually had cost savings, and we don't need the $1 million to do the disparity study since it was taken care of this year. So there's no impact to our other MWBE programs. That savings only primarily reflects the MWBE disparity study.
And that's good to know, because just a few weeks ago, my committee, the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure, held a hearing. DDC was there. The comptroller had released a report that same day, which showed very poor performance in terms of MWBE participation. And so with the MWBE program being led by SBS, wanting to make sure that the sufficient resources exist within the agency so that the city can do its part to help private businesses to be able to build its capacity through city contracts. And so I'm looking forward to working with the agency to see those numbers improve. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. And now, Councilmember Krishnan.
Thank you so much, Chair Feliz. Good to see you, Commissioner, as always. And thank you for your dedication and commitment to working with all our small businesses from Jackson Heights and Elmhurst that we've done together across the city, especially for our immigrant-owned small businesses. I just have a few questions. One is the Small Business Resource Network is funded in FY24 via the Council's 5 Borough Chambers Alliance Initiative, I think about $500,000, and a one-shot of $1.5 million SBS's budget. The network offers support to businesses across the city with website, financing, operations, and all crucial services that small businesses depend on in terms of technical assistance and support. Would you support a restoration and baselining of the funding for the Small Business Resource Network?
What I'll say is that the Small Business Resource Network has been a great program for small businesses. The chambers that we work with, in particular, the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce, Randy Piers is here today. We know that these programs are very important. So we're looking at it right now in terms of the budget process as it continues, and we're having discussions with OMB. And so we will say that, again, it's a great program, and we've been very fortunate to partner with our chambers on that.
I would hope to see it continue and the funding to continue, given how vital the services are for small businesses. On that note, too, another program, and we've talked about this before, too, has been legal services for small businesses. I think that's crucial. I say it as a former legal services lawyer, but on the housing context and knowing that for rent stabilized tenants, when it comes to leases and things like that, there are a lot of protections built in, though they're not enforced, but they are there. But the commercial setting, there's so few protections. So many leases are one-sided, and so many businesses come to us because of landlords that are harassing them, forcing them to leave, jacking up their rents, to an incredible rate that they're not able to pay. And so really, small businesses, their survival depends on having access to legal services that can help them, not just counsel them, but represent them in navigating these situations, because it's fundamentally not a fair fight when commercial landlords have lawyers and small businesses don't. And it's one of the biggest reasons that small businesses get priced out of this city and out of their own places and stores is because of these unequal bargaining dynamics, which legal services can help to solve. I know the program exists. My understanding is that the commercial lease assistance program, it's more brief advice based, but I think just like in the housing context, we're moving to full representation, right to counsel for tenants. I just wonder what conversations are happening with SBS, the mayor's office, the mayor himself about how can we get to a world where small businesses that need it can get access to legal services to represent them in these negotiations.
So I'll start, and then I'll pass it over to my Executive Deputy Commissioner Gross here. The CLA has been, like you said, such a lifeline for so many small business owners. I think that when people enter into a lease agreement, oftentimes, you're right, they're only thinking of that immediate moment, and then they don't think about the impact of the rent increases or the continuing maintenance obligations that get passed off to them. And so understanding what's in that lease line by line is incredibly important, but most small business owners, as you know, half of all small business owners are immigrant owned, and English necessarily isn't their first language. But even people who with English as their first language, when you start getting into the legalese of the contracts, you get lost. And so this program has been valuable in helping people take advantage before they enter into the lease. But too often we see people who've already entered into the lease then come to the program. And so where we try to add value is in renegotiating the terms during the course of the lease, and definitely before they renew a lease. And I think that's been extremely helpful. And so the free workshops and the free consultations we've done and the actual services, I think I'll turn it over to Executive Deputy Commissioner, who's a lot more experienced in this area as well.
Thanks, Commissioner. I want to assure you that the engagement of our vendor on CLA is a deep engagement with businesses. It's not just a clinical model with brief consultations. There's actual representation of businesses at various stages of negotiation of their commercial leases. The limit is litigation. So it's pre-litigation representation, but it is a deep engagement of those legal services. And in addition to CLA, we are providing legal services to small businesses through partnerships with VALS, legal consultations through our business solution centers, other services for MWBEs, and We NYC.
Thank you, Deputy Commissioner, and I'm glad to hear that, and I hope that network and that investment can not only continues but expands, because all of these groups, legal services, I know well, and it's the issue is always the need so far outpaces the capacity you all have. My final question, if the chair permits, is just on an issue that I know is personal to me, to you too, Commissioner, is you touched upon it already, but our Asian American business in particular, whether it's in my district, in Councilmember Zhuang's district, or across the city too, one of the biggest issues that we face, in addition to the other two I just mentioned, is language access, and the importance of, we can have all these great programs, but it's so hard for our businesses, and especially our API-owned businesses, to access these services because of language barriers, because they're so bureaucratically complex, and that communication is so, and accessibility, both language and cultural accessibility, is so important. So have you given some thought, and what thought, if any, have you given to what kinds of initiatives could we create or fund within SBS to support API-owned small businesses, as a subset of MWBEs as well, but the unique challenges that API businesses face too?
Thank you for that question. I think language access begins with outreach initially in language, and one of the things that we've been actively doing is working with the Office of Ethnic Media, the Mayor's Office of Ethnic Media, and we've been able to hold community ethnic roundtables, and I make sure that as many ethnic outlets are invited, as does Jose Bayona. He does a great job of that. And then Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs, Manuel Castro, has also attended all of these meetings with me. We just held with Commissioner Rodriguez a whole community ethnic media roundtable around the Dining Out NYC rollout, because like you said, API community in New York City, they own, according to the Asian American Federation, 23% of all small businesses. So they have a disproportionate large number of these businesses. And so whenever we do big initiatives, we make sure to cover as many of the languages. The New York City Small Business Opportunity Fund, when we launched it last year, is a prime example. Even though the law requires 10 languages, the top 10 most spoken languages, we made sure to get the word out on day one in 22 languages. The AI chatbot, the first ever in the country to have this to help small business owners, initially the first pilot was in English, but soon, after a few weeks later, we updated it to include the 10 other languages as well. We know that with the Asian American business owners, we formed the Asian American Small Business Task Force during the pandemic, and that has been ongoing. We also created the first ever Latin American Small Business Task Force. And so part of it is making sure we get the organizations that are working with the small businesses in the community to come in to understand it, so that we can provide as much information to them. And part of it is that they help get the word out in language as well. Our outreach team's language capacity in itself, we cover Korean, Mandarin, Cantonese, several dialects in Chinese for the AAPI community, of course, as well as Russian and Spanish and many of the other required languages. I think the key here also is that when we did a big push on outreach through social media, we created this character for our recreational vehicle. It's the RV called Moby. And in Moby, just cartoonizing, I don't know if that's a word, but making it into a caricature, cartoon style. We also have Moby speak over 10 languages when we do our social media outlets, not just in English. So he speaks Urdu and some of the languages that most people may never have heard of, but is very important to the small AAPI small business community. So we're proud of that. I think the social media outreach using those kinds of creative techniques has been one of the big highlights for SBS last year. We increased our views of all of our postings by 45% to over 1 million views now. We've increased our following by 20%. We have over 116,000 followers now. And I think the video views has increased by 500%. So I think when we're doing it in different languages, more people are actually engaging and they're watching. And so the language access piece, I thank you for your real champion of that, because for SBS, we know that we can have the most amazing programs, but if people don't know about it, it's all for naught. And so language access is a top priority for us. While we're on this outreach piece, because it's very important, if you'll indulge us, we wanted to share with you. No, this has never been public yet because it's been a demo that we've been working on. And just as a background, at the agency during the pandemic, almost 100,000 people called our hotline. And because people couldn't always access information just online and language, people called in all various forms of language. So we came up with this little jingle that we wanted to just share with you as just an example of how we're trying to be creative in our outreach. So if you'll indulge us for 20 seconds.
SBS for NYC, for New York business owners building economic security. SBS for NYC. If you want economic security and growth, you gotta call 888-SBS for NYC.
So that number, 888 for, you like it? SBS for NYC is actually a telephone number. You like it?
I like it.
We try to be less annoying than some other, I don't want to name them, but we all know which one I'm talking about. But we want to be, but this also was partly inspired because we saw Chair Feliz's Twitter over the weekend at Somos. You were on stage with a guitar, so we thought you'd all appreciate the musical talents at SBS too.
Well, I approved the beat. It was very good. And Chair Feliz, next time I have to see you play guitar too. But I just wanted to say, Commissioner, thank you for your thorough response, and just thank you for your leadership in this regard when it comes to language access and particular attention to our API communities. I know we've done events together too in Jackson Heights and Elmhurst, and I hope to see City Hall give you all, most importantly, more resources to support that effort. More jingles, more everything else. We're very appreciative, but thank you for your leadership there.
Thank you, Council Member.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Krishnan. And yes, we absolutely had a great time in Albany last weekend. Music is great. So a few questions, and actually before the questioning, going back to my earlier point, I think the language barrier challenge that we have brings us to the earlier point that I made, potentially hiring temporary outreach people from the community and having SBS maybe train them on the different processes that need to be completed to form a bid so that they could do outreach in the community that they're from. So I think, that idea could definitely help resolve some of those challenges. A few questions about funding. So today our governor is in Albany talking about many different topics, including small business funding. Our governor, in her executive budget, she included several proposals geared towards economic development and small businesses around the state. Has SBS determined how much funding the city and SBS could receive from the many proposals that we've heard?
Not yet, I think. So we'll look into it and get back to you on that.
Okay. When the governor provides funding for SBS-related matters, how does that generally work? Is it easy to access the funding? Does it take time? A lot of different processes that could
I'll pass
delay?
this to our Executive Deputy Commissioner, Michael Forte.
Okay, thank you. Hi. So, we access a bunch of different funding sources and they all have different requirements, but, we navigate them as necessary, and our real objective is just to try to draw down as much funding as possible to bring it into New York City, and basically whatever the requirements are, we'll kind of alter our processes to do that, and we haven't encountered any particular obstacles with the funding that you're referring to.
And how long does it generally take to get access to the state funding based on the many processes?
Yeah, it just varies when it's allocated. A lot of times, different funding sources, sometimes it'll flow through other agencies. Oftentimes, we're allowed to start spending on the programs before we actually have the money in hand, as long as we have a commitment. So it really, across all of our funding streams, programs haven't been hindered because of the administrative work necessary to draw down the funding. And so if anything, we want to put the focus on allocate more to us, and we'll just navigate whatever the requirements are versus necessarily altering the programs to make the requirements less burdensome.
Okay. And the governor's budget proposals also included $40.2 million to address property crimes and bring relief to small businesses. How can SBS play a role in making sure that our small businesses have access to any new resources offered by the state?
On the budget side, I'll turn it over to Executive Deputy Commissioner Forte. On the retail theft question, I know that's a big priority for you and for us as well. Mayor Adams has always said public safety is the prerequisite to prosperity, and he also hones in on the importance of small business owners having safe environments for customers to continue to come in. And he formed the Retail Theft Summit last year, and from that, it wasn't a one and done event. From that, we've formed a number of subcommittees, and so I personally sit on two of the subcommittees. One is using technology to prevent retail theft, and the other one is local retailer theft challenges. And so we have been active participants at SBS on those subcommittees, and we hope that best practices will be shared amongst the members. It includes business owners, small and big, and associations that also represent a number of small business owners, and as well as many agencies in the city. So this kind of cooperative task force on retail theft hopefully will come up with more solutions to a problem that exists now but is trending downward.
Yeah, and on the state funding, again, that's still being kind of finalized and deliberated in Albany, but, it kind of, the money becomes available in two different ways. One way may be through the agency directly, where we would draw down the funds and distribute it to businesses and people looking to start businesses. Another way is where the state makes that funding available directly to businesses, and then we look at ourselves as kind of a catalyst and a way of kind of spreading that word. And in both cases, we are very, very hungry for more, to try to get the word out. Anytime anyone's going to make funding available, we want to take a look at it, and we find out, through various channels. We have our IGA team watching it. We have a strategic initiatives unit that also looks to private funding, grant opportunities, also part of the partnership with the council. Anything that anyone becomes aware of, please let us know. We're willing to put in the work to look at it and to try to get those funds and operationalize it.
And I would say that the one way also, when the state makes funding available for small business owners through some kind of a program grant, what we'll do is we'll make sure that information is on our NYC Funds Finder. That is also the first in the country where the Biden-Harris administration, they looked for a municipal partner to roll this out, and funded the entire project, where we came in, partnered with them, and now there's a one-stop shop website, NYC Funds Finder, where any small business can go and not just learn about New York City loan and grant programs, but they can access state loan and grant programs, as well as federal. And no other city in the country has city, state, and federal on one website. And the beauty of all this, too, is that at the end of this website, you can actually connect to somebody who's a financing expert at one of our business solution centers. Because we recognize that not everyone can navigate websites, and we have populations, for whatever reason, they feel more comfortable with in person. We make sure that on this website, you can connect directly, make an appointment with a financing advisor, and then they can get their needs served that way.
Yep, and just want to thank you for that. You and your team have been extremely helpful with ensuring that our small businesses have access to all the resources they need. For example, if they're going to get an inspection, making sure that someone goes in before the inspection to make sure that they know what they're going to be inspecting, and making sure that all the pieces are where they need to be so they could pass the inspection and they wouldn't have any delays in opening their business or whatever the matter is. So I just want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
And on the issue of funding, moving on to federal funding,
Yes.
coronavirus pandemic obviously affected our city in many different ways. It specifically affected our small businesses. They had to shut down from one day to the next, suffered economically, and in many other different ways. And the federal government was helpful with funding to help these small businesses recover. Can you talk about that funding? How much did we receive? What's the period for the funding? I'm hearing we're getting close to depleting the funds.
So during the pandemic, the federal funds came through the state and then to us, and then we administered a number of different big grant programs. We had a $100 million grant program, and then we had various other programs that also gave out hundreds of millions of dollars. I don't remember the exact number. It might have been 300. But it was one-time federal funds to make sure that those businesses stayed alive. And when we were able to take some of the remaining funds and use it to create the New York City Small Business Opportunity Fund that I put into my testimony, that investment, a small investment with great partners like Goldman Sachs and MasterCard Center for Inclusive Growth, allowed us to then leverage our small city dollars into the largest public-private partnership loan fund. Over 1,046 businesses benefited, and 80% were MWBEs, 69% are BIPOC, self-identified owners, 59% was in LMI communities, but the money got distributed to every single city council district. So we were very creative in using whatever funds we had to then multiply and leverage it. And that model is something that now we're talking to a lot more folks about potential future public-private partnerships on all levels. I'll give you one other example where the Ron and Carrie Moelis Foundation, they partnered with us to do NYCHA entrepreneurship competition. And they've done this 2 years now, where they've awarded $20,000 to 10 NYCHA businesses in each of the 2 years. And by doing that, Small Business Services comes in without ever putting money in, but because of the relationships we have and because of all the free business resources we have, we're able to educate the business owners and do some of the work that you referenced, our New York City Business Express Service Team, NYC Best for short, where we do compliance advising. We help them navigate through government. If somebody's opening a restaurant, we can help them understand how to get their licenses and permits much faster than if they were trying to navigate themselves. So with the federal funds, those one-time large investments, while they might not be there, we found other creative ways, including the NYC Small Business Opportunity Fund. And also one other way we've done this is we've done a couple of federal partnerships the NYC Funds Finder I had mentioned again, we made sure that the federal government would partner with New York City and that they would put in the money, but that we would provide all of the resources and access to our small businesses. One last example, and I wish Councilmember Krishna was still here, but the federal government wanted to do economic summits around Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander businesses, and they chose New York City as a place to come, and we partnered with them to make sure that all of the businesses, MWBEs, can get to that summit where all the federal resources were also explained to them very clearly. So I think the partnership with the federal government is incredibly important, and at SBS, we're always looking for creative ways to work with them, which doesn't necessarily have to cost us money out of our pocket.
Thank you. And the preliminary plan includes $43.4 million in federal funding. How much of this federal funding is COVID relief funding that's expiring at the end of the year?
None of that is COVID expiring. That is all for WIOA dollars for the workforce development programs. Since we manage the 18 Workforce One centers, and that money goes to help fund that.
Yeah, and what are programs that will continue to receive COVID funds in the current and the next fiscal year?
I'll let you answer this.
I believe that the last of it is when the commissioner referenced in the Opportunity Fund. That would be the last of that federal, the COVID and the ARPA funding. That would be the end of it.
Okay, so the Small Business Opportunity Fund will be the last program related to federal funding after that program?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. How will the expiration of the federal COVID relief funds affect programming for SBS?
I don't think it'll have impact on our programming because we have the sufficient headcount. As I mentioned, we actually have more than since the start of the administration. So we have sufficient headcount. We have the sufficient budget. A lot of our focus has been on the outreach that I had explained and the real understanding of reaching out to more New Yorkers, getting into the communities with our Moby, the RV truck. Moby has been to probably over 100 neighborhoods in the past year alone, and that is a many-fold increase over what it had been doing previous to that. So examples of just being out there with the sufficient resources and sufficient headcount on our side has really led to helping contribute to the economic recovery. You know, the mayor yesterday announced record number of jobs again, the second time we've broken this record in the past few months. 1 in every 6 businesses in existence today actually started since the Adams administration. I personally attribute a lot of it to the mayor and Deputy Mayor Maria Torres Springer's the economic blueprint that they were able to set forth. If you read the blueprint on the SBS side, we've implemented almost all of the recommendations there, and each one has had significant impact on the overall economy.
Okay. Have we secured other resources that will replace these federal funds that we're no longer getting?
I don't think the pandemic era, hundreds of millions of dollars of grants, that was a one-time national event. I don't see that coming back unless there's another event like that, and hopefully there won't be. I really think that where it's important is that as the federal government continues to roll out new programs, that we're right there partnering with them with as many of the rollout and accessing as much of that money. Because we do have over 200,000 small businesses in New York City, and we should make sure that we get our fair share of any of those types of programs that come out of the federal government.
Okay, and some final questions about the Small Business Opportunity Fund. So that's obviously a program designed to help small business owners by launching a public-private sector loan fund directed at small businesses. How many businesses have been served by that program?
Over 1,000. It's 1,046 businesses to be exact, at an average of $80,000 per business. The favorable program that was created was because, again, no minimum credit score. The other unique part of this program was that 15% of all the awardees are startups. And the startups, as you all know, they have the toughest time accessing capital. But what we're seeing in New York City is that there are a lot of women-owned and minority-owned businesses that were starting since the pandemic. They came out and got creative. They didn't want to go work in an office setting necessarily. So there were a lot of new small businesses that were starting, but they had no way to access capital. And then our program addressed that need by making sure that 15%, we think is a very significant number compared to any other program out there, of startups receive funding. It's in every city council district has received this funding. And as I mentioned, in the Bronx, 14% of the funds went there. And traditionally, you've probably heard it many times, the Bronx always felt like they weren't getting their fair share. In this case, I think they did get their fair share. Yes, of course. I don't know. I can't. I don't have power.
I'm sorry. Only while it's still on my head, because we're jumping. I want to go back to what you said here about the small. This is really very interesting about the interest rates for small businesses.
Yes.
That this is huge. That you're not doing the credit. You're not doing.
Minimum
Talk to me
credit
about that,
scores.
yes.
Yes. So that's huge because, you could be a business that is, let's say, for just example, your expenses are $5,000, your income is $10,000. So every month you're making $5,000 a month.
Right.
But along the way, while you were building up your business, while you had to buy that kitchen equipment, whatever it was, maybe you missed a credit card payment, minimum
Right.
payment of $100 here and there. And all these factors start hitting your credit score. So if you went to a bank with those numbers and said, hey, look, I'm positive, I'm cash flow positive, but they're like, yeah, but your credit score is like 600 or maybe not 600, 500. So sorry, you don't apply. And so right there, without even having that discussion, they were knocked out. But in this fund, because we partnered with 8 community development financial institutions, CDFIs, who are nonprofit lenders, whose mission is to make sure the money gets deployed to deserving businesses, they would sit down with the business owner and not worry. There's credit score information that might be important, but it wasn't based on that one cutoff number. Right. They're able to then look at the particular business situation and say, look, wow, you're making $5,000 a month, and this loan repayment would require you to pay $300 a month or $400. We think you can do it, and we're going to support you. And by the way, we're going to connect SBS to you because they're going to provide you with the compliance advisor, the small business advocate, other types of technical assistance programming to make sure you can survive in your business, thrive in your business, and repay the loan, right? At the end of the day, it's still a loan, but they wanted to create an environment and a setup where they had every support needed to be able to successfully participate in the program. And so that's why these startups, 15% of them, right? That's over 100 businesses. There's, all these MWBEs that have been turned down multiple times from traditional lenders, and they were now able to hire people. I use that Booney Coffee example. They're so unique because not only are they able to expand to another cafe, but they're able to use this money to create the roastery itself, right? So now they're on the manufacturing side. And what's great about that is there's so many small mom and pop independent coffee shops all around the city. And it's hard for them to compete against sometimes the Starbuckses of the world, right? I was going to not name any particular corporation, but one of the larger chain corporations. But now they have a unique advantage because you've got this mom and pop roastery that's taking Ethiopian beans and creating unique flavors, and that these small mom and pops can buy from them or probably offer to white label their own coffee beans as well. And now you've got an economy upon an economy. And so this is the kind of leveraging of the money, the smaller dollar amounts that we want to maximize for economic growth.
Because there's so many young people, ages 25 to, let's say, 35.
Yes.
Entrepreneurship is key.
Yes.
And that's what they want to be. They're entrepreneurs. And they've got great ideas. And lots of times they go to their mothers and fathers and they ask their mamas and dads for some startup money. In today's world, it's really not possible to give them what they need. So I'm interested in taking back a lot of this information that I'm getting today. Plus, we're going to have another conversation because I am going to do a town hall in my district.
Awesome.
And this way we could bring in what I hope to be a couple of hundred people so they could actually hear what you have to offer. Again, knowledge is power. People do not know
Right.
to the extent of how far you go, unless you're sitting here on this panel. If anybody's listening to this on our NYC channel, which would be great, but most are not. So I think bringing you to the community, us taking our knowledge to our communities, we're key in revving up small business through you. So we are your best public advocates as elected officials.
Absolutely.
So, but my concern does lie a lot with the entrepreneurs. And these kids, I don't want to see them give up. They're young people, they got their whole future ahead of them, and they got some great ideas, but they have no money. So I'd like to dive more into how we go about doing that. and
Well,
helping
we'd
them.
be happy. I personally would be very happy to go back to my old neighborhood.
gonna say,
Grew
it's
up
your
in
hometown,
Bayside,
exactly
yes,
right,
and we did our
exactly.
walk there, and it was
Yes.
walking down memory lane, and
Yes.
happy to talk to the entrepreneurs. I think what we see at SBS is even beyond the capital access side, we're able to get best practice ideas. I'll give you a quick example. The toy stores around the city, they were struggling, competing
yeah.
against the big online e-commerce companies. And so we convened them all, or as many, there was over 20 that came. I'm sure there are many more, but we invited all of them. We found them, we invited them. And when they sat there talking to each other, one of the ideas that came up was that even the bags themselves that they give out, their gifts, when somebody purchases, and the bags could have cost them 50 cents on the dollar. But now working together, if they buy together in bulk, they could get that cost down sometimes to 35 cents, 30 cents. And just that alone by talking to each other. So those are ideas that I would love to come share with your district and your businesses there, because again, it's and I'm told I need to plug the May Small Business Resource Fair. It's going to be in Queens as well. In every borough, we're having it. And May is Small Business Month. So if there's anything you'd
That's
like to
great.
partner up with us on, we'd love to do it in your district. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Palladino. I would also like to acknowledge Councilmember Sanchez, who has joined us via Zoom. So a few more questions about the Small Business Opportunity Fund. So you gave us some details. It's a public-private partnership, a loan. Could you give us a little bit more details, how long the loan is for? What's the maximum amount?
Sure. It was up to $250,000, and the average was $80,000 per loan. We actually anticipated early on that maybe people would be seeking about $50,000 on average, and so that's why we estimated maybe a slightly higher number getting it. But we really wanted to personalize, individualize this particular program to make sure that we didn't just set a dollar amount and say everyone gets the same amount, because not every businesses have the same need. So this Booney Coffee example of getting $100,000 actually allows them to open this roastery. If we gave them just $50,000, they can't really open half a roastery, so they wouldn't have been able to do anything with it. It would have helped in other respects, but we wanted the money to go where it could have the greatest economic impact, not just for that business, but for that community and for the industry of business owners that are in that field. It's a 5-year loan period. I believe at a certain dollar amount, it's 6 years. I forget which. When it gets a higher dollar amount, I think it might be a 6-year amortization. Otherwise, it's a 5-year.
Okay. Is it an interest-free loan?
Oh, 4%. 4%. Which is below market rates. At the time when we launched it, I think interest rates were as high as 7-8%.
Right.
And this is where I really do have to give credit to our partners at Goldman Sachs and MasterCard Center for Inclusive Growth to really come in and say, hey, we see the need, we want to be helpful. And what we're trying to do now is take this model that's been so successful. Other cities have been interested in it. We just did a national convening of small business SBSs of the United States, and we had almost like 22 cities actually join. And when we talk about models like this, they were like, wow, that's very innovative. We want to see how we can do it in their city. What we want is the corporate America and private partners to take more note of it, others other than just Goldman Sachs and MasterCard, and say, we want to be part of this version of 2.0. So the threshold for the longer term, okay, so anything 100,000 or over is 6 years, and anything below is 5 years.
Okay. And what are industries that were served through this program? And also, how does SBS decide which businesses are awarded these funds?
So most represented industries, 15% food service, 15% retail, 14% professional, scientific, and technical services category. And while we helped design the program and partner up, we had an administrator, CRF, that did then work with the 8 CDFIs. I think the real notable point here too is that, and I give so much credit to my team in that a lot of times when you create a big program like this, and there's going to be over 1,000 businesses and over, tens of millions of dollars, it's kind of easy to just say, we're going to take like the 3 or 4 biggest CDFIs and just work with them. But we had an intentional mission on this opportunity fund. We said, let's hit it all, let's go for it all. And we wanted to make sure that we could help support capacity building in the smaller CDFIs. So some of the relatively smaller CDFIs, we wanted to bring them in, and those are the CDFIs that are really closely connected to historically underserved communities. We wanted to make sure they were part of this program. So when they came in, we were able to support them. And I think now having gone through this experience, and it was like drinking water out of a fire hose, right? In the first couple of weeks, we had over 10,000 people express interest. So the processing by the CDFIs. It was the CDFIs who made the decision on a case-by-case basis. So SBS just helped design and oversee, but we didn't make any decisions directly because we really wanted to leave it up to the community-based nonprofit lending institutions who know their community the best to figure out where the money should go and how much of the money should go there.
Right, okay. So moving on to questions about our smallest businesses, our vendors.
Yes.
So what are services available to them? What are programs available, resources? How many different regions and vendors have we served in the last year?
When you talk about our smallest vendors, I believe you're talking about our street vendors?
Street vendors, yes. Yep.
Because we at SBS also consider street vendors to be the smallest of our small businesses. We have, from fiscal year 21 to 23, worked with QEDC, Queens Economic Development Corporation. They received a $634,000 Neighborhood 360 grant to support vending, organizing in Corona Plaza and Junction Boulevard. In fiscal year 23, the street vendor project that we've partnered with received the $410,000 merchant organizing grant in Harlem, Sunset Park, and Fordham Road. The senior SVP street vendor project managing director, Mohammed Atia, sits on our mayor's Small Business Advisory Commission. Now, that's a commission that came out of the blueprint where there are 49 members and many actual small business owners. And we also have the chambers of commerce and other organizations, but we have actual small business owners sitting there. But Mohammed Atia is part of our Small Business Advisory Commission. One of the recommendations that came out of that last year was to do a study to be able to best plan for time, place, and manner, and that's something that is getting done this year, hopefully by the end of the fiscal year, and we'll be able to see best how and what resources that might need to get done. We did a mailing in fiscal year 24 to 22,000 mobile food vendors on supervisory licenses. We wanted to make sure that they understood the opportunities and the laws and be in compliance. We offer all of our business service, almost all of our business services to street vendors that come and ask at our Business Solution Center. We don't ask and say, well, are you a street vendor? It's more anybody, and we don't ask for immigration status. We just serve businesses that come through our 7 Business Solution Centers, ask for whatever help they need, and we try to offer as best as we can all the services.
Yep, and we really appreciate the partnership that all of you have had, especially with the Street Vendor Project. So really appreciate and Councilmember Palladino has a question.
Concerning the street vendors, we have a problem in my district. I really need to know, when let's take Bell Boulevard for prime example. We have vendors that are setting up directly in front of and mirroring a business that is paying rent on the boulevard. It's literally a truck, several trucks down Bell, but this one particular vendor is actually, like I said, doing exactly what the storefront is doing. And it's just not right. So while I understand a street vendor needs to make their money, and I believe in it 100%, the problem is their locations and such. Do we have any sort of ruling or any kind of things that they need to follow through small business practices? Because they cannot continue to impede upon people who are struggling in bricks and mortar. So while I believe in vending, I believe that there's a place for vending. And I know years ago, there used to be a favorite hot dog guy was right outside the Whitestone Shopping Center. His name was Jim, and a retired fireman. But the vendors always knew a place to be. So they were never, like I said, taking food out of somebody who's paying big money for bricks and mortar and really struggling. So what can you help me out? How can you help me with that?
Well, I think that's what the primary purpose of the study is. It will really focus on time, place, and manner, and I think that's what addresses your concern. There should be places that are appropriate at the time that's appropriate and in the manner that's appropriate. There are laws in place. We at SBS are not a regulatory agency, except for our small waterfront permits department. They just deal with a very specialized area, but other than waterfronts, none of our divisions have any regulatory power. I think, as you know, the mayor has put the enforcement powers on the compliance with any kind of laws related to street vending with the Department of Sanitation. And so they would be the more appropriate agency to speak to. Yes, so for us at SBS, we just want to make sure that anybody who comes to us with a business, we can offer as many of the services, because at the end of the day, a successful business hires people, those record number of jobs. When it's 4.7 million jobs that were created in New York City, the record number, over 1 million are hired by small businesses alone. And so without the small businesses, the city would not look the same. Companies under 50 employees, small businesses make up 94% of all companies under 50 employees. So these are very powerful numbers that have real community impact attached to them. And at SBS, whatever business you're in, we want to be supportive. So that's something that I'll defer to you. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd also like to acknowledge Councilmember Hanks, who has joined us. A few more questions. The next related to the Center for Workplace Accessibility and Inclusion. So it was announced that a new two-part investment to support career advancement for those with disabilities and expand access to internships and training. Can you provide an update on the launch of the Center for Workplace Accessibility and Inclusion?
Absolutely. So we were able to hire somebody. We were working with the Mayor's Office of People with Disabilities. This is at our Brooklyn Workforce One Center, and we're looking forward to all of the implementation of the plan. But we know that it's important to be able to give the same access to people with disabilities. The initiatives will feature curated trainings. And again, we've already hired the staff to pilot this initiative in the spring. And we can also connect you with Mayor's Office of People with Disability and Office of Talent, NYC Talent, that is really in charge of this initiative.
Do you have any data on the rates of success, either obtaining a job and success rate after 6 months?
For
the new office, for the new Center for Workplace Accessibility and Inclusion.
You mean in terms of how would we answer that question? I'm not sure.
Managed by MLPD.
Oh, so yeah, it's being launched. It hasn't quite launched yet, the initiative, and then it's being managed by MOPD, Mayor's Office of People with Disability. It's just using our Workforce One centers, but they're the ones managing the program with Talent, Office of Talent. So
Okay.
we can connect you.
Final question. So obviously our small businesses have a lot to offer. They have a lot to offer to their local community, but to the city as a whole. And it could be tough for those disadvantaged commercial corridors to market themselves so that everyone else can see what they have to offer. So is there anything that any programs that we have on the issue of marketing so that everyone could know what the different businesses have to offer?
Absolutely. So I think a key component of marketing is to work and reach out to New York City Convention and Tourism. I think if you look at the numbers, when Mayor Adams says New York City is back, he's able to back it up with all the numbers. And we have just an increasing rise of tourism. Over 63, 64 million tourists are here, have been here. What I would say is for districts to work with the tourism convention, work with us. I think what we've heard from small business owners is that NYC Link, you know, those little polls where people can charge, they also have free programs for marketing for small business owners. And I don't think many small business owners know that. So that's something I think that I would highly recommend. I would think that other things that we've done with, or I have discussions with when I walk the corridors was like, for example, Councilmember Salamanca in his district, I think there were murals that were being put up right outside of areas that had a lot of graffiti previously. And in some of the other districts too, the murals have become a tourist attraction. And then I'll point to Murray Hill and Flushing. What they've found is that businesses or individuals who live in the Bronx, because of the rise of Korean pop culture and Korean dramas on Netflix, it apparently people organize busloads to go visit Murray Hill as if they're visiting Seoul, like Little Seoul. And I think that kind of exchange could happen two ways, where if you can get amongst council members even just sharing one unique aspect to help organize these trips, field trips to the other districts. That's something that I would really focus on. And then the merchant organizers, the merchant associations, we've been really partnering with them. And then I think with the Chambers of Commerce, Chamber on the Go program and the SBRN that EDC actually manages that you had referred to, I think getting the small businesses to become more savvy online, the digital marketing, we had partnered up with MasterCard as well to provide free digital marketing courses. And I think just helping to promote their particular uniqueness about them is something to do. I think with small business owners, one of the other things I've seen is that they want to drive more foot traffic. So sometimes partnering up with popular online brands that are only online, like if you're a very popular sunglass business, if a small business owner in an area that maybe doesn't have as much traffic but has a uniqueness to it that might attract New Yorkers and tourists alike, they can reach out to some of these companies and say, hey, look, you're popular online, you don't have a storefront presence. We pay rent, we have this storefront residence, and we sell sneakers. And so maybe sunglasses and sneakers aren't the best pair, but let's say hat and sweatshirts may be better combo. You sell hats, we sell sweatshirts. Why don't you borrow or sublease a space in our store to sell your online wear, and then people who find them and follow them online will go to that store just to go test and feel and touch things that they couldn't do otherwise. But at the same time, while they're checking out the hats, they see these cool sweatshirts that are very neighborhood based. I know up in the Bronx, there's a group of guys that are really branding the Bronx name. I think Randy Piers at Brooklyn Chamber has done an incredible job branding the Brooklyn made products. And I think every borough, there should be a Queens made one, there should be a Brooklyn, maybe. I don't know if the Manhattan one will do very well, but the rest of the boroughs, I think, should all have their brand, and they should have a store space to combat the high cost of rent by sharing retail space, whether it's a popular online brand or with other complementary businesses. So these are some of the things that I think we're looking at SBS. We've been studying it very closely. We understand that storefront vacancy was something that we want to address head on this year.
Thank you so much. Any other questions? All right, well, thank you so much for your testimony. We really appreciate all the information you provided. You were very specific with all the details, so we appreciate it. And yeah, look forward to continuing our work on the many topics that we talked about. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, and we expect to see you with the guitar at the next year.
Yes,
right?
We will.
We'll do a video presentation of our jingle. You do it with the guitar, please. Thank you.
I'll think about it. Exactly. I heard she's a pianist, right? All right, thank you so much, and I'll pass it back to the committee counsel, Jessica Boulay, so she could open it up for public testimony.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you so much to our panelists today. And we'll now turn to public testimony. I will call up panelists 3 at a time. And I'd like to remind everyone at the outset that every panelist will have 2 minutes to present their testimony. No recording is permitted while presenting testimony. And please wait to begin until the sergeant has started the timer. And I will open it up for council member questions after each panel in full has completed their testimony. If you would like to, up to you. Some people have been waiting.
Do we generate?
I haven't seen that yet. 2 minutes. All right. So to begin, I'd like to invite Sering Gurung, Randy Piers, and Meredith Phillips Almeida. All right, thank you. And Randy, if you'd like to begin, we can go your right to left.
Great. Well, thank you, Chair Feliz and the Small Business Committee members. Appreciate you having me here today. I'm Randy Piers, President and CEO of the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce. I do want to say, Mr. Chairman, your comprehensive questioning, the Commissioner gave me all this other stuff to talk about. So I'm going to get through my testimony quickly, which you have written anyway. Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce is the leading voice for the small business community in Brooklyn, 62,000 businesses in total in Brooklyn. One of the programs that came up a couple of times, including from Councilmember Christian, was the Small Business Resource Network, of which both the administration as well as City Council have a part to play in that. It's one of the COVID-era programs that can continue if we receive restored funding. Meredith is going to speak about it more directly, but the bottom line is it's called the Five Borough Chamber Alliance in the council side, 500,000, which of course we're asking for a restoration. And then the 1.5 million one shot included in the SBS budget for fiscal 24, which will help to expand the SBR and maintain the SBRN in underserved commercial corridors throughout the borough. Once again, Meredith is going to talk a little bit about that a little bit further. But you raised a good point about the state. So when we talk about the retail efforts, theft mitigation efforts, tax credits are at the top of the list in terms of the governor's proposals, right? So if we offer tax credits for retail theft mitigation, like we installed security cameras, but no small business knows about it, you've now got a tax credit that nobody can use, right? But the Small Business Resource Network, because it's a case management and outreach model where we deploy resource specialists in every neighborhood, in every community, through all 5 chambers, so it's not just the Brooklyn Chamber, is a mechanism. We speak 14 different languages. Is a mechanism, for example, this is one example of how we can get more resources in the hands of businesses because we have the teams on the ground. So that was a very good observation there. Oh, and that's it. Chamber on the go. Restore, and we have a speaker ask $150,000 specifically to support MWBE certification efforts.
Test, on. Good afternoon. Thank you, Chair and committee members. As Randy mentioned, my name is Meredith Phillips Almeida. I'm here to speak specifically about the Small Business Resource Network and request the restoration and baselining of the $1.5 million that appeared in FY24 into FY25, and also for the restoration of $500K for the Five Borough Chamber Alliance. At this moment, there is no funding for SBRN in FY25 budget, so we're here to talk about how important this program is. Launched in 2020 as a pandemic business recovery effort, SBRN is a comprehensive approach to small business resiliency that offers free, personalized guidance for small businesses and incorporates a few special sauce components. I always like to talk about field outreach, meeting businesses where they are, at times serving businesses where they are, and the ability to connect businesses to resources from both the public and private sector. So again, originally launched as a pandemic recovery effort, we're still out there today. Our team is serving thousands of businesses. I don't need to tell you that we don't need a pandemic for small businesses to need support. So the need is still relevant and important as ever. Our team is in the field, like Randy said, communicating in multiple languages, connecting businesses who are traditionally disconnected from information about these support services in a case management model. It's not about just sending an email or saying, let's attend a webinar. When extra support is needed, our team is there to handhold, to help complete application, to stay involved for an extended period, especially when humans are required for problem solving, right? This is what is needed. I always say that, if you've heard me talk about this before, I say this all the time. I think the key to resiliency is knowing where to find help before you are in crisis. When you have a flood or your refrigeration system breaks down, that's not the time to start Googling and figure out where you need help. So what I think is key to our program is our team is making relationships through trust, sort of, in the field, creating these relationships so businesses know where to go and connect to these in city and private sector programs. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon, Chair Fellas and all the members of the Finance and Small Business Committee. It's a pleasure to be here today. My name is Sherin Gurung, and I'm a Senior Manager of Business Development and Training at Accompany Capital, which is a certified community development financial institution established in 1997. And I heard, commissioners speak about CDFI, so it was like really good to hear, the work that we have done. Accompany Capital mission is to create pathways to prosperity for immigrant, refugee, and underserved entrepreneurs across the city by providing access to affordable credit, financial education, and training in technology and best business practices. We also offer free webinars, community resource fairs, and workshops, as well as matching savings program for refugees, sponsored by the federal government Office of Refugee Resettlement. Our diverse staff speak over 12 languages and dialects, including Spanish, Urdu, Russian, French, and Nepali. We work with each client in their own language whenever possible to provide them with individual technical assistance, including how to open a bank account, how to establish or repair their credit, how to develop and business and marketing plans, and how to access affordable credit. Since our inception, we have expanded economic opportunities for minority-owned businesses, dispersing over $60 million in business loans ranging from $500 microloans to street vendors and hair braiders to $350,000 in community advantage loans to finance larger projects such as renovation and equipment for a new restaurant. We have assisted nearly 10,000 unique businesses and created almost 3,000 new jobs and saved more than 11,000 jobs citywide. As you develop the city's council fiscal year 25 preliminary budget response, we strongly encourage you to recommend an increase in resources for small business providers, especially those that dedicate their work to underserved entrepreneurs. Small business owners across the city are facing various issues from rent arrear, landlord harassment, financial challenges, and competition from big retailers. In order to assist entrepreneurs with this trouble, especially those that have cultural or language barriers, providers on the ground need your support. Beyond the preliminary budget, we also encourage...
Please conclude.
Okay,
And 15 more
thank you
seconds.
so much for your time. And on behalf of everyone at Accompany Capital, we look forward to strengthening our partnership with you. Thank you for your time today.
I'm sorry, I didn't get your name. Meredith. How are you, Meredith? I liked what you had to say. First of all, it's really nice to hear a human factor is playing has a big part in this. Everything is relied on these, which is great, serves its purpose. But there's a lot of, we need human contact. And going back to entrepreneurs, going back to small business owners, I was a small business owner for over 30 years. My sister Joanne is still a business owner, manufacturing, and now she's grown. She's here on the East Coast and on the West Coast. We know a little bit about startups and how difficult it is. My whole family basically is entrepreneurs, except for 2 sisters. But with that being said, I'm always open to how, especially I talked about our younger people, the ones 25 to 35 who have $0, good, excellent heads that work in a business sense, great ideas, and the fact that you want to inform the people and what tools you're able to give the people. This is what's interesting to me the most, is how do I get these people with these great ideas off the ground, stop being afraid, and a lot of them have nothing. So I want to hear more about what you do collectively, or you're individuals here today, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So I do want to, I'll separate you accordingly, I'm sorry, because I'm in Queens, you're in Brooklyn, we got the Queens Chamber of Commerce, okay, but you do a lot. I'm interested in you, so you'll give me your card at the end of this, and we could have a private conversation. All right, and you, I would like to talk to as well. I mean, this whole thing has been a real, for me, like I said, and my family being in small business. Now we have our younger people in my family and others coming to me. What do I do? So this is a learning experience, and I'm grateful to have it, but I need to know more. So thank you.
So could I just, the Small Business Resource Network, it is all 5 chambers, and we all work together.
Right.
So Tom and Lisa and Linda
right,
and
right.
Jessica, we're all, and Tom and I are Tortured Mets fans, so we also commiserate
so
on a
you're
whole
the-
other
yeah,
level.
okay, good, okay.
And think about a case management model where we have outreach and assessment teams that knock on doors and connect businesses. But on your very specific question about where do you point a new entrepreneur, because it relates to SBS services. So they run something called the Business Solution Centers. These are actually WIOA funded, so it's actually part of the workforce funding on the federal side. We, the Brooklyn Chamber, happen to run the one in Brooklyn. There's an amazing program, 8-session program called Business Basics.
Okay.
We point every new entrepreneur to that program because it puts them through soup to nuts, everything you need to know about starting a business. Because a lot of times a small business owner just doesn't know how to run a business. They know how to bake cookies, or they know how to do something really well, but they don't know the aspect of actually running the business. So before they leap, and before they take out that second mortgage on their home and dump it into a business, we want them to have all the tools that they need. And by the way, that program is virtual as well as in person, and it's done in multiple languages. So it's an SBS program. It's through the Business Solution Centers. I always say it's the first step for any new entrepreneur. So there's a great resource out there that a new entrepreneur can tap into.
Yeah, because I related very much to when you said the plumber, and when you have the flood, and all of a sudden you decide you need to find a plumber.
Absolutely.
That's basically the mindset of the younger generation. We have, when going through our aches and pains, my husband started his business when he was 26 years old. He's now 70. So, we are outside the box thinkers. Small business owners, entrepreneurs, we learn how to survive. We learn how to, because it's survival, thinking outside the box. There's always a way to get through to the next step. There's got to be, because you never say die, you never give up.
Right.
So I just want a springboard where people could go. People don't often listen to their parents or their family members. They much rather get it directly from another source. And that's something that will definitely come in handy for all of us. But this is something that I'm so happy I'm on this committee. It's brand new to me, but business and small business is not. So I'm really looking forward to a very great year coming up working on this committee. So thank you so very much. Thank you to my chairman. Thank you very much.
Could I also add something to my colleague Randy said? So yes, I was breezing through and was remiss that I didn't mention that this program is a partnership between the 5 chambers and citywide, and that allows us to share resources, information, even staff and language capacity at times. And Randy's example was a great example for why this is important. Amplification of what exists from city agency is super important. Every business owner that's out there doesn't know that this program exists at the Business Solutions Center, but because our team is on the ground in all 5 boroughs and does know that, when they encounter someone who needs that specific service, they're able to make that referral. We even refer company capital at times. We are able to refer them to pro bono business strategy advisors if they're in that phase. We are experts in the ever-changing landscape of small business resources, which is incredibly complex. So our team knows what's out there so that when you approach us, we can say, have you reached out to a company? I think they'd be a great fit. There's someone there who speaks the language that you prefer to communicate in, and they have products that are a great fit for you. You should go to the Business Solutions Center. They're the best fit for you right now in this phase. So I love that example because it shows why it's important to maintain this capacity at the neighborhood level and sort of reach these businesses who are not necessarily aware of these things or connected to this information.
Can I add something? I did hear, Councilmember Shaker, where our office is. We belong to his district, and he mentioned about the language barrier and the challenges, and that's especially very specific and for immigrant-owned businesses, and that's the majority of the clientele we work with, and having a diverse staff who speaks the language, who understand the culture background really helps. Right, because we are able to speak in the language. Yeah, exactly, and it also kind of helps, the trust factor, because many new Americans, they don't understand the financial system. They don't know about credit because that never, they didn't have any of that system back home. So just helping them understand about the whole credit system, the financial system in U.S. So there's a lot of education needed in addition to access to financing, and having a great network, referral network is so key, and that's something we've been hearing again and again from all our resource partners, that we all are part of this ecosystem, and we should know about each other's resources, right? Where to refer them to, if it's a service that we cannot provide. So if it's a pre-startup business, we should refer them to SBS or SBDCs, right? To help them, with the idea stage, to help them with the business plan, and when they are ready, for the funding, SBS knows that, okay, these are the CDFI partners where I can refer them to. And similarly, right, we work closely with, all the Chamber of Commerce and, and refer them when, they need the services that they offer. Yeah, okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. All right, I think we can call our next panel. It will be Karina Kaufman Gutierrez, Nick Aquino, and then Kate Tiskin. You may begin.
Good afternoon. My name is Karina Kaufman Gutierrez, and I'm the Deputy Director at the Street Vendor Project, a membership-based organization of over 2,900 street vendors. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. We respectfully request from City Council to sustain and expand our small business empowerment program for street vendors. The demand for street vendor education and services continues to grow as the population transformed during the pandemic and continues to increase as many asylum seekers are beginning to vend as well. It's critical that there be an investment in education and training for these emerging small business owners to help them know their rights and their responsibilities, which SVP is primed to do. We are the one-stop shop for street vendors that will provide you with legal representation when you receive a ticket, help you navigate the complex street vending laws in 7 languages, and offer training to build your skills to grow your street vending business. Despite being a small team of 3 full-time organizers, 2 part-time, and 1 lawyer on staff, in just the first 8 months of this fiscal year, We have supported 414 vendors with individual consultations on topics ranging from sales tax filings to filing loan applications. Of these, in the past year, 57% of our small business consultations were in Spanish, 20% in Mandarin, 14% in English, 5 in Arabic, and 3 in Bangla. 59% of our consultations were with female identifying street vendors. We also hold monthly workshops at our membership meetings with a regular attendance of 50 to 75 individuals, and tonight's, for example, is on registering for e-payment systems. We also conduct regular street outreach to vendors to connect them with services, often with the fellow SVP member alongside us to continue building trust when so many have faced scams in the street vending world. Each of these engagements is with the purpose of helping a small business owner to grow and become part of the formalized economy. And respectfully, Street SVP really fulfills a critical role. There is no city agency that meaningfully serves street vendors. Respectfully, in September 2023, just a little bit, okay. SBS reported that they did not have staff dedicated to street vending, does not conduct in-person educational outreach to vendors, and did not have data on how many street vendors had accessed any of their services. And unfortunately, the information shared today, respectfully, was incorrect about a study being funded this fiscal year. It will not be funded, as was told to the SBAC. This is a stark difference when compared with the investment in enforcement. DSNY, as of the FY24 adopted budget, currently has $2.9 million budgeted for the Office of Street Vendor Enforcement, which is set to increase to $4.7 million by FY27. Street Vendor Project, we are very eager to increase services to street vendors, but we really need City Council's support to increase our capacity. And by empowering vendors to improve their financial literacy, our services help them integrate into the formalized economy, allowing them to open bank accounts, access credit, regularly pay and file taxes, and grow their businesses. Thank you so much for your consideration of this proposal and in supporting the street vendors who make New York City beautiful and diverse. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Nick Aquino, and I am a staff attorney with the Microenterprise Project of Volunteers of Legal Service. For over 20 years, the Vols Microenterprise Project has helped small business owners access free legal services. We partner with the city, particularly SBS, to connect with clients. For many New Yorkers and under-resourced communities, entrepreneurship provides an opportunity to build wealth for themselves and future generations. A thriving small business ecosystem also strengthens the local community. Many of our clients operate neighborhood institutions like delis, cafes, and barbershops that serve the dual purpose as a community space that can't easily be replicated. While we strive to provide free legal services for as many New Yorkers as possible, we cannot solve this problem alone. Leveraging city resources is essential. For example, on February 28th, Vols launched its partnership with SBS's Black Entrepreneurs in NYC program, and there, Vols facilitated a presentation on business legal considerations to an audience of Black entrepreneurs, a community that is vastly underrepresented in New York City's business owner community. We rely on essential SBS and other city programs to connect our clients with non-legal support. For example, SBS's Financing Assistance Programming offers our clients a necessary lifeline. Similarly, without well-resourced social networks due to historic discrimination, our MWBE certified clients benefit greatly from SBS's procurement opportunities. In sum, without city services to reduce the barrier to entry of under-resourced entrepreneurs, the dream of small business ownership would be the exclusive purview of the wealthy and well-resourced. Also, without your support in the form of discretionary funding, Vols wouldn't be able to bring free legal services to New York City entrepreneurs. Thank you.
Good morning, or good afternoon, I guess, at this point. Thank you so much for spending your time with us today, Chair Feliz and the rest of the committee. My name is Kate Tiskus. I'm with Collective Public Affairs. And what I do is I work with many city council initiatives to help with the running of their programs and to help with the securing of funding and to help city councilors understand what it is that those programs do. I wanted to emphasize the work of 3 initiatives that work with SBS today and use this moment to note that SBS's resources in the executive budget receiving cuts and losses really impact the ability of other providers who partner with the city to be able to provide those cities be able to provide those services in an efficient way. And also to note that as partners try to step in and fill the gaps, loss of funding or even just holding steady on the same amount of funding can really impact the number of people that they serve. So the Workers' Cooperative Business Development Initiative is a wonderful entry into small business ownership for many folks, especially new New Yorkers who may have documents that are in a complicated situation to meaningfully participate in business ownership. The Pride at Work initiative helps LGBT people get into high road union employment and is also administered through SBS. And the Domestic Workers Empowerment Initiative helps domestic workers understand their rights and responsibilities and to connect to the services and particularly human rights protections that City Council fought so hard to get for them. All of them have significant funding asks for this year, but also require a strong partner from SBS. And so the cuts to the executive budget will impact those initiatives' abilities to function as well. Thank you.
All right, if there are no questions, then thank you all very much. And I will call up our next panel. We could have, let's see here, Elsa Samaniego, Ana Salgado, and Gregory Morris.
Sorry. Honorable Chair, Member Felix, and committee members of the New York City Council. I'm Ana Salgado, Mental Health Coordinator at Mixteca organization. I appreciate your time and I'm honored to have the opportunity to testify before you today, representing Mixteca, an organization dedicated to serving Latin and indigenous communities in Sunset Park and Greater New York City. We recognize the profound challenge of our immigrant and indigenous community encounter, which a long-standing commitment to aiding our immigrant community and responding to the humanitarian crisis of newly arrived asylum seekers, Mixteca stands at the forefront of community-based support. Today, I'm here to introduce our Workforce Development Program, TELAR, means striving through education, leadership, and access to resources. TELAR was established with the aim of empower our community with the skills, resources, and tools necessary to strengthen their socioeconomic well-being through education, entrepreneurship, and career guidance. Conceived during the onset of the asylum seeker humanitarian crisis and the labor shortage experienced by our immigrant community during the COVID-19 pandemic, TELAR endeavors to equip immigrant communities with entrepreneurship skills to navigate challenging times. As the coordinator and facilitator of TELAR, I have the privilege of closely working with participants, understanding their stories and their motivations for joining the program. An overwhelming 19% of participants enrolled in the program are unemployed, seeking skills and resources to secure a source of income for themselves. Unemployment presents challenge in any context, but it becomes even more intimidating in a city like New York, known for its resilience yet burdened by high cost of living. The Latin community tireless strives to confront economic challenge, and by supporting Mixteca, we can provide families and communities with the means to overcome obstacles and brighter future. Yes. Okay, thank you. TELAR is an example, a program that works to connect social support, education, workplace, preparation, career. It's important to mention all these areas because it's the work that can be accomplished when the organization and the community have the support and inversion from the city to do the work. In considering resources allocation, I implore you to prioritize funding for Mixteca. We are a frontline organization vital in providing essential services to our immigrant community. Your support is essential in obtaining capital funding to expand and continue delivering cultural competence service, including TELAR. Thank you for your time and attention to this matter.
Muy buenas tardes, honorables miembros del Consejo de la Ciudad de Nueva York. Mi nombre es Elsa Samaniego, líder comunitaria, activista y participante del grupo de TELAR en Mixteca. Estoy aquí porque quiero compartirles a ustedes lo importante que ha sido para mí y mi familia y mis compañeras participar en el grupo de TELAR. Me está brindando las herramientas que necesito para poder emprender mi propio negocio de velas artesanales. Aprendí cómo hacerla, aprendí cómo presentar mi negocio, estoy aprendiendo sobre el plan de negocio y reglamentación y protección al consumidor en la ciudad de Nueva York. Sé que aún tengo largo camino para recorrer, aún debo seguir emprendiendo muchas cosas, pero me considero una mujer emprendedora y TELAR me está dando la fortaleza de creer y que sí puedo hacerlo. Y las herramientas para hacerlo real. Sé que programas como estos solo son posibles con su apoyo y el apoyo de muchos. Necesitamos la inversión en el programa de negocios pequeños y inversión en Mixteca y organizaciones similares que trabajan por mí, por mi familia y mis otras compañeras del grupo de TELAR, mujeres emprendedoras que queremos salir adelante. Gracias.
I will read the translation of Elsa's testimony. Good afternoon, honorable members of the New York City Council. My name is Elsa Samaniego, community leader, activist, and participant in the TELAR group. I'm here because I want to share with you how important it has been for me, my family, and my colleagues to participate in this program. TELAR is giving me the tools that I need to start my own artisan candle business. I learned how to make them, I learned how to present my business, and I'm learning about a business plan and regulations and consumer protection in New York City. I know that I still have a long way to go and I still have to continue learning many things, but I consider myself an entrepreneurial woman, and TELAR give me both the strength to believe that I can do it and the tools to make it real. I know that programs like these are only possible with your support and the support of many. We need investment in a small business program and investment in Mixteca and similar organizations that provide support to me, my family, and my other colleagues in the TELAR group. Entrepreneurial women who want to get ahead. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony, Council Member. My name is Greg Morris. I'm the CEO of the New York City Workforce Development Association. That is an organization that serves as a resource and a support workforce development providers, 220 in total, serving almost 500,000 New Yorkers on an annual basis. Our membership indicates that the majority of participants that our providers serve are women, young adults, NYCHA residents, immigrants, refugees, asylum seekers, and justice-involved individuals. Our job, essentially, in the workforce development ecosystem is to track the value and impact of the commitments of the city administration makes in support of job readiness and training, to serve as a resource to employers and employer intermediaries seeking talent, and advocate for the budgetary, legislative, and regulatory action items that maximize access and equity in programs and services that are essential to our efforts. So that means industry-specific skill development, college and career exploration, internships, apprenticeships, reskilling, upskilling options, as well as employment, placement, retention, and supportive services. I wanted to take the testimony submitted online. Happy to talk to you and your team about any of the specific details we have about strategy related to workforce development in New York City. But I specifically came to this hearing because the Small Business Services has responsibility for 18 Workforce One centers in New York City. And as they reported in the preliminary hearing report, their numbers are down in terms of placements, usage. It's also the case that the amount of money that those sites have is down as well. And I want to flag that, and I want to champion the fact that you talked about it related to the Disabilities Office, but we don't track job placement, we don't track outcomes. If you look at the MMR, we really don't know how it is that the investment the city is making in Workforce One is resulting in better opportunities for New Yorkers seeking job opportunity in this city. So I just want to flag that, and I think one of the solutions to that could be the city council having its own workforce development task force or committee that would call to mind both this agency and others coming to the table and reporting outcomes related to the investments the administration makes in job development and training so that all New Yorkers can benefit from those investments. Thank you.
All right, since there are no questions, thank you very much. Gracias. And I don't have any other registrants for in-person testimony. Please let me know if we missed you. So I will turn to our Zoom panelists at this time. Let's see. So I believe we have online Michael Haber, Jessica Walker, and Pilar de Jesus. We'll go in that order. For Zoom panelists, once your name is called, a member of our staff will unmute you, and the Sergeant-at-Arms will give you the go-ahead to begin. Please wait for the Sergeant to announce you may begin before beginning your testimony. So if we could start with Michael Haber.
You may begin.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Haber, and I'm the Director of the Community and Economic Development Program at Brooklyn Legal Services Corp. A, or Brooklyn A. Brooklyn A is seeking funding for our Community and Economic Development Program, which provides legal support for small businesses and nonprofits across the 5 boroughs, and calling for a continuation of SBS's Commercial Lease Assistance Program. Partnering with SBS to provide services through the CLA program has allowed us to shift our focus to commercial lease assistance to small businesses over the last 6 years. Last fiscal year, our small business program served small businesses on 1,334 matters. We provided assistance to businesses in every council district in New York City in FY22 and all but one in FY23. Each and every one of these neighborhood businesses plays a crucial role as part of their communities. Despite our successes with the CLA program, we have some ideas for how to improve it. First and foremost, continued funding of the program with immediate issuance of a negotiated acquisition extension agreement to ensure continuity of services and timely issuance of an RFP for a new contract cycle. Second, while we appreciate all the efforts that SBS has undertaken to assist with our outreach efforts, Brooklyn A is a legal services provider and not a marketing firm, and we believe that the CLA program needs additional assistance from the city to support our outreach efforts. With additional investment in and management of the marketing of the CLA program from SBS, we could dramatically increase our services to small businesses across the city, making more business owners aware of these critical services. Thirdly, many small businesses are struggling with landlord lawsuits that have come about because they fell behind in paying their rents, sometimes by just a few $1,000s. The CLA program does not allow us to litigate on behalf of our clients, even though most small businesses cannot afford to pay for court costs and attorneys for litigation. Brooklyn A has seen repeatedly that if landlords are aware that attorneys cannot appear in court on behalf of small business clients, they may evict longtime tenants and jack up rents, causing damages to small businesses across the city. Several options would allow for an increase in small business support and litigation court capacity on a trial or pilot basis, including allowing CLA counsel to appear in court to discuss agreement or for a limited portion of certain agreements. Thank you for your time.
All right, we'll move to our next panelist. Thank you very much. And next up, we have Jessica Walker.
You may begin.
Hi, I'm Jessica Walker. I'm the president of the Manhattan Chamber of Commerce. I want to just sort of reiterate what my colleagues Meredith and Randy spoke about earlier. In particular, we are very supportive of our Small Business Resource Network and also the Chamber on the Go programs. I just wanted to highlight, because they did such a great job, I just wanted to highlight a few things. First and foremost, just how effective the program is. Since its inception in October 2020, we have reached more than 47,000 businesses throughout the city. And the stat that I'm most proud of is that most of the people we've helped, 76% of the businesses we've reached have been minority and women-owned businesses. And the vast majority of businesses we've reached have had 4 or fewer employees. So these really are the businesses who need the help the most, who often are forgotten or just don't know where to go and really do need the support and the resources. So very helpful. It's a very terrific program. The other thing I want to reiterate, I think Randy spoke about it, is that the Chamber on the Go program really does help to amplify all the good programs that the city has, and that small businesses may never know about if it's not for the outreach that we're doing. So, the lease negotiation program, the MWBE certification programs, all of that great stuff, the city grants and loans, we're the ones getting the word out about that. So again, we just want to request that the City Council discretionary money, it's $500,000 citywide for the 5-Borough Chamber Alliance. The other pot of money runs through EDC. It's called the EDC Business Resource Center. It's administered by SBS, but runs through EDC. And then, of course, the Chamber on the Go program is a City Council discretionary fund. We support it, and we would love to see that fully restored in the city budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
No.
All right, thank you very much. And then we'll move on to Pilar de Jesus.
You may begin.
Hi, good afternoon. I apologize, I couldn't be there in person. I was trying, but I don't know. Meetings kept me here. My name is Pilar de Jesus. I am an advocacy coordinator at Take Root Justice. Take Root Justice provides legal participatory research and policy support to strengthen the work of grassroots and community-based groups in New York City to dismantle racial and economic and social oppression. And I'm going to submit a more formal testimony. This is going to be more informal. I just really want to encourage, continue to encourage the council to continue to fund the Worker Cooperative Development Initiative. It is something that, as we all know, or as the council may know, that worker cooperatives provide a value, especially when we're talking.
Oh, sorry, it seems like you've been muted or we've lost sound. Oh. No, we can't hear you. You seem to be unmuted on our end, so.
I think she looks muted. I can see
Are you able to unmute yourself? Okay. And there's nothing we can do on our end? All right.
Is she wearing headphones? She might have clicked the headphones.
If you're wearing headphones, maybe that was it? I don't know. Well, thank you for coming. And if you are able to submit written testimony, obviously that'll be in the record as well. All right.
And I'll make sure to look at the testimony. Thank you so much. I'll make sure to, read the written testimony. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And is there anyone else on Zoom that we have missed? Great. In that case, thank you again to everybody who testified today. And I'll turn it back to Chair Feliz.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone who testified today. Thank you to the administration for all the information. Thank you also to the public for bringing your unique perspective and experiences on the issue. Really appreciate the input. With that said, today's hearing is hereby adjourned. Thank you so much.